This is the future. This is the future. Evolution. Evolution.
Hi guys, CityScapes here, and welcome back to episode 6 from the Citadel. You probably need a second to calm down after that intense intro from before. I just couldn't help myself to play a bit around with the different effects, reshade, and just downloaded DaVinci Resolve 17, and there are some cool new features I wanted to try out. And I'm just in general really hyped for today's episode, because I think that's the episode where this city really starts coming together, and I'm just finally absolutely certain that we are on the right track for this whole project. Because I don't want to lie, I am still a bit haunted by that not so smooth start into this project with the reboot for the whole city, but now I'm kind of relieved because we are headed into the right direction. I built a big chunk of the city already in advance, so I have definitely something to show you in the future. So let's get started with today's episode. Last time we finally finished the front view for the whole city, and I think we got a pretty good idea now about the design, how the city will look like, even though just a really small portion is built already. But it was very crucial for me to get this build done so I can work off from that general design. Because this whole area here is in the middle of the downtown area. It is quite nice looking, I would say. I imagine the housing prices would be quite high in this area, so lower income households definitely don't live here. And since these families or people living here have some money to spare, the whole area will be absolutely crowded with advertisements, billboards, holograms to encourage people to buy all the stuff from the mega corporation Wallace, which kind of rules this whole city. And I assume this sounds quite familiar for a lot of you people, especially the ones who are into movies and have watched Blade Runner or Ghost in a Shell and all of these cyberpunky dystopian movies. So I think it makes perfectly sense to have a really big shopping area here in the heart of the city. We got the main highway cutting straight through this area here, so that's gonna be a really nice opportunity to attract people's attention. I imagine they don't have to drive their cars themselves. I hope they are autonomous by the year 2500, so we can afford to try to shift their attention to all the stuff Wallace wants to sell them. The idea for this shopping center here came vaguely from Cyberpunk 2077 as well. I really wanted this building to be overarching the streets, having lots and lots of overpasses, and as you can see, I used some kind of futuristic dystopian building from some kind of futuristic collection. I flipped this whole building 90 degrees to the side, and this building was just a really nice fit because it has this kind of cutout in the middle, and that's exactly the area that is overarching the highway there. So this came together pretty nicely in my opinion. As you can see, and as I said a couple of times already, I'm gonna move around all of these tall, unique buildings all the time. I just want to keep them somewhat together at first, and then while I'm developing the specific city blocks, I'm gonna figure out where exactly these really tall buildings should take their final position. And yeah, therefore the skyline changes from episode to episode a bit, because in the end I want to have a somewhat spread out skyline, or maybe even multiple downtown areas, something like Tokyo has, and in between I just want to fill absolutely everything with buildings. I really want to emphasize that mega city vibe by placing down especially concrete / brutalist looking buildings, and yeah, I think we are on the right track to that. Obviously, due to the fact that this city is gonna be very large, I can only focus on certain areas and make them kind of high detailed areas, but I think that's clear for almost all of you. There are countless reasons why you cannot detail every single corner of the city. But anyway, here you can have a quick look at what I imagine by saying spreading out the skyline a bit. I think this picture sums up that vibe pretty well. Interestingly, a really difficult part here was to choose the right bottom or ground buildings. In this case, I went for, I think it's called World Center from Quad. Quad makes really cool futuristic buildings. If you are building something similar, definitely check him out. And yeah, these world whatever buildings, they were just such a nice fit because they look perfectly like a commercial or high commercial building, with the ground floor surrounded by these pillars and the mounts for advertisements. I'm later on gonna cover these ads with animated ones, so that's gonna be nice. And yeah, even though we just passed this part, I discovered a really nice trick I discovered while I was building the futuristic suspended monorail in episode 2, is to use Bisquickelhausen's Bay Bridge pillars, only the pillars. Unfortunately, they are quite high trees, but they look really, really good when you kind of wrap them around already existing buildings. It's just gonna change the whole look of them to a way grumblier vibe. And yeah, so I did that a bunch of times. But right now you are probably wondering, how exactly did I do these transparent glowing billboards here, and why the heck do they work as procedural objects? So today I would like to show you quickly how to transform all kinds of assets into such holographic ones. It's actually super easy, barely an inconvenience. First you need to download the mod tools from the Steam Workshop, and don't forget to activate it in the main menu under options. Then download a prop you want to convert, or just any asset. Then head to Ronix69's modding website and head to the tab Additive Shader. There you will find a link which leads to this website here. There you'll find additive shader scripts for props, vehicles, buildings and so on. And in our case we need the script for props. So we're just gonna copy that script, create a text edit file on the desktop or wherever, and paste that script. Then we load an empty map. In my case, it's a little test city I built very quickly one time ago, it doesn't really matter. We select that prop we wanted to convert, as you can see here, and then we press Ctrl E on our keyboard and this opens Mod Tools. We scroll down to the tab tool controller, scroll down again and select prop tools. And here you have to look for prop info m_prefab and click on the button preview. As you can see now, mod tool shows us a preview of the texture for the selected prop. By clicking dump mesh and texture, we extract the mesh and the texture of the corresponding asset into a folder on our computer. Next step is loading the asset editor, where we create a new prop. You also have to select some kind of a reference prop, doesn't really matter. And then in this window here, you have to search for the asset you just dumped. As you can see here, I dumped already a lot of assets, so I had to search quite a bit for it. But when you finally got it, we get a little preview again, and we can change the scale. I usually tend to scale it up a bit more. 100 would be the same size as before, if I'm not mistaken. But since these assets are PO friendly afterwards, the size doesn't really matter because we can change it anyway. We then have to open our text file again, where we stored the little additive shader script, and here we can change some properties and variables of this script. Very important is to set the same on-off time, which is the var variable, so the hologram shows up at all time. Copy that and paste it into the mod tool console. Click run and the script is applied on our asset. Then the only thing left to do is save the asset, give it a name, whatever you want, and click save. This asset is now saved as a local asset on your computer. This one sits in the City Skylines folder. Press on add-ons and you see the CRP file. And that's it. There are plenty of other videos explaining how to share your holograms on the workshop, so I'm gonna leave it like that. I hope this short tutorial was helpful, and I'm really excited to see more holographic assets popping up in the workshop. As you can see here, I played around a lot with these normal billboards. Frankly, they don't look all that great as holograms. These were one of the first props I converted. So later on, I'm probably gonna change this whole design element here. But yeah, you just have to figure out for yourself which assets look good as holograms. And I don't know, maybe even other creators will start making holographic friendly billboards and whatnot. I'm actually not sure if I should share my own local collection of these assets, because I'm not the original author. I just ran the additive shader script over it, which was also quite a bit of work for, I don't know, I think I converted already 50 assets or something like that. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna reach out to the original creators and ask them if it's alright if I'm gonna release just one very big collection. But for now, I'm more excited to see what you will come up with now that you know how it's done. Especially graffiti props look really cool as holograms. But yeah, that's that. Now back to the video, I would say. So in the meantime, we just finished some city blocks. For that, I just squeezed some Hong Kong and other generic looking buildings together. I think I very often used the Taiwanese shops and some kind of Japanese shops next to the main roads or the bigger junctions. And we almost finished that iconic red skyscraper that's overarching the elevated highway. As usual, in between these larger builds, I switched forth and back between detailing and, as I said, doing these larger city blocks. So right now I was paying a bit attention to the lighting and so on. And now something that's gonna de-trigger, I guess you could say, a lot of people. I built the supports for this highway here, and boy oh boy, that was so painful to do because there are so many networks coming together here, and I still want to make good use of the space underneath this highway. So I use these Ronix expressway pillars, obviously as procedural objects, and colored them as yellow as I could. I think this is a nice contrast to all the shades of gray here. But yeah, you can imagine I had to cut so much out of this time-lapse here because I probably placed down 100 of these pillars. But another question, I just discovered the noise reduction function of DaVinci Resolve. I know I'm a bit late to that party, I guess, but please let me know down in the comments how the sound is. I think it should be much better, at least on my computer monitors here. It sounds way better than before. Now moving on to another interesting little build. Namely, I wanted to fill this whole area underneath the highway here with some kind of market. It's not really the right spot for a black market, so this one is more in the legal zone. As mentioned before, I don't want to waste too much time detailing every single corner, and I think right here I found a really good balance between building this market very quick and dirty, and it still adds a lot to that area. It looks so busy and just like so much is going on here. And because I didn't want to place down the market stalls right in place underneath this highway and suspended monorail, I just copy-pasted the two streets where this market sits in between and built basically the whole thing outside of the area and moved it back after I finished building it. As you can see, I did exactly the same thing with the detailing as well. I placed down all the props and decals and whatnot, also over there to the side, and moved it back afterwards. As always, the lighting is super important for this whole series. I think my last video performed quite poorly because my thumbnail was a bit too dark. So from now on, I'm gonna make extra sure that everything is properly lit up. And yeah, for the market I just went for some different light colors so they blend together, and from a top-down view or also from the street view, it doesn't really matter. It just looks great, so colorful and very cyberpunky. And again, my plan for this whole series, it's actually the same as with Verville. I usually just kind of finish an area, I build it and record the cinematics, and then these files gonna sit a while on my hard disk, because I don't know, it's the coolest part is still building the city, and even though I started enjoying editing as well, the building part is still much more fun, to be honest. And so the files sit on my hard disk for a while until I decide to make a video out of it. And usually in the meantime I go back in these areas and add a lot of details. So as you saw with these cable wire thingies, I planned to put way more of them all over the place. Or same story with the ads and holograms. There has been quite some time passed between the recording of that market build and these holograms here. So luckily I didn't release the video already. But another thing that's happening now is the new PO update has just been released, and oh my gosh guys, it looks so freaking amazing to have all these holograms and other ads rotating, shifting or whatever, moving back and forth. It looks amazing, but I already recorded all the cinematics and everything, and I just couldn't be bothered with recording it again. But you're gonna see that in the future, that's for sure. And I will also post some short clips and whatnot over on my Instagram or Twitter or whatnot. So if you cannot wait to see that, definitely head over to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or Discord and have a look for yourself there. But I still managed to cram this little sneak peek into this episode of the Citadel, so you know what to expect in the future. And as you can see, it's just looking incredible. There's no other way to describe it. Anyway, one of the last things we are doing here today is building this little Chinese soup restaurant thingy. You know, we're still in the downtown area. This area needs a little bit of extra love, so I took some inspiration from City Wall. He built a couple of these soup kitchens, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I used his light strips. They are flickering there nicely. And just placed down a lot of tables, benches, and people props. And yeah, I think this turned out really cute here. I also put these scaffolds along the building facade just to add a bit more character, and same with these props from that industrial pipeline asset. They look always great. And yeah, just in general, putting down some finishing touches, some billboards here and there. And as I said, over time I will probably add even more of that stuff. But guys, this has been it for today's episode of the Citadel. Really hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Big thank you to my patrons, Jason, James and Han. You are amazing, guys. Thank you very much for your financial support. And yeah, as I said before already, if you want to see more of my projects and some behind the scenes stuff, definitely check out my Discord, Instagram, Twitter and all of these platforms. Yeah, not much more to say. Really hope to see you in the next one.